folks, and welcome to the Joe Morley Sports Show. I am Joe Morley. If you're only following us on YouTube, make sure to go to my website, joemorleysports.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook for daily activities. Today we're going to do a Detroit Lions 2020 season preview, so I'm going to go through everything of the Detroit Lions. So it's all strictly Detroit Lions. We'll start with the head coach, who I think is going to be on the hot seat this year, Matt Patricia. You know him. He's been with the Detroit Lions for a couple years now. Look at his head coaching record. His career record is 9-22-1. That's a great record, right? You like that record? He was a Patriots defensive coordinator from 2012 to 2017. In that time, he earned 3 Super Bowl rings with the Patriots. Last year, they should have started 3-0. The Lions should have started 3-0 last year. In Week 1 against Arizona, they blew a big lead, gave up 18 points in the fourth quarter, ended up letting Arizona come back and tie with them. They won the next 2, of course. So they started 2-1 and 2-0-1 is what they started. So I mean, they looked promising at the beginning of last year, but then just dropped. Here's their team rankings. Matt Patricia was brought in as a defensive guy, right? He was a Super Bowl champion defensive coordinator, right? So let's go bring in this defensive coordinator to help our defense, because the Lions have always had a good offense. For some reason, they've always been able to move the ball. Maybe not a top tier offense, but they've always had a good offense. Someone that can go down and score points when they need it, but they've never had that defense, that shutdown defense that does anything. So why not bring in Matt Patricia, right? Bring in a defensive guy for our team that needs defense to stop the Aaron Rodgers, to stop Kirk Cousins, to stop Mitch Trubisky. Let's bring in a defensive guy. Well, 31st in defense last year. Only one team worse than them. I mean, in pass defense, they had one of the best cornerbacks in the league, Darius Slay, and they still couldn't stop the pass. They still couldn't get off the field on third downs. So Matt Patricia came in as a defensive guy, and he's not producing. And that's why he should be on the hot seat, because the offense was already there when he took over. The defense needed improvement, and it's not there. It speaks right here. The stats don't lie, right? Tape don't lie. Your defense is not there. And Matt Patricia was brought in for that reason, and that was to fix the defense. So here's the quarterback for the 2020 season. He's been the quarterback for a while. Matthew Stafford. Last year, he only played 8 games. In those 8 games, he went 3-4-1 as a starter. And, look, 2,500 yards, 19 TDs, 5 interceptions, almost a 65% completion rate, which you can't ask for very much more. A lot of people are down on Matthew Stafford for some reason. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. I like Matthew Stafford. Year in and year out, he puts up high numbers. He showed this year, in 2019, when he went down after 8 games, they went 0-8 after he went down. They didn't win a single game without Matthew Stafford. And that shows how valuable he is to the Detroit Lions. And yeah, he makes those mistakes, but he keeps you in a lot of the games. He drives them, and he takes those shots that a lot of other quarterbacks wouldn't take, and he takes them, and he does good. Like I said, just showing last year, when he went down and Detroit Lions weren't the same, and you couldn't even win one game without him. Here's the superstars that I think are on the Detroit Lions. Of course, Kenny Galloday and his 1,100 receiving yards last year. He had almost 1,200. I think he was 10 yards away from that. He had 11 touchdowns. I know a lot of people are going to give me crap for putting a kicker as a superstar, but I like Matt Prater. I think Matt Prater is a very underrated kicker, and he's kicking in the dome, which helps out. But he was 26 of 31 last year. But the big stat was he was 8 of 9. 8 of 9 from over 50. For an offense that wasn't driving last year, that was a very helpful. When Matthew Stafford went down, they needed a kicker that can kick from 50 yards plus, because they weren't going to be able to drive that much. And then Trey Flowers. Trey Flowers was Matt Patricia's prized possession that he brought from that New England Patriots Super Bowl teams. He brought him over as a free agent. And Trey Flowers has not He's producing. He's doing everything that he's supposed to do. There's not much more you can ask from Trey Flowers. There's not much more. He had last year alone. He had 7 sacks, 57 tackles, 21 quarterback hits, and 8 tackles for losses. So he's getting there. He just has nobody else with him. But Trey Flowers is a great defensive player. Here's who they drafted this year. Jeff Okudah. They kind of got forced to take Jeff Okudah because of the Darius Slay trade. They sent him to the Eagles for a couple draft picks. Darius Slay and Jeff Okudah, if you would have been able to put both of them together, would have been a very nice defense. But Darius Slay didn't want to stay in Detroit because him and Matt Patricia didn't get along. So they shipped him out. They brought in Okudah. Okudah and C.J. Henderson were debatable of who was the best one in the draft. And Okudah's the guy who went here. DeAndre Swift, don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on DeAndre Swift. A lot of people are going to say, oh, he's too small. He's 5'8". But he's also, 218 pounds or 13 pounds. He carries his weight, he's a big guy in a little body. And the last 2 seasons, back-to-back seasons of 1,000 yards, he had a career collegiate touchdowns of 20 touchdowns in his collegiate career. So he's a good running back, and he's going to make a difference here. And then I like Jonah Jackson. Hopefully he can get into the starting role because everybody knows Detroit Lions need some offensive line. Just look at this depth chart right here. Matthew Stafford is slated in. They brought Chase Daniels in as the backup. David Blau's the guy that went 0 for 5 last year. DeAndre Swift is your starting running back. Then you have Kerryon Johnson, who was your starting running back last year. And Kerryon Johnson looked like a very good running back at the beginning points of last year. He went down after 8 games. He went down with an injury to his knee, but he looked like he was an up-and-coming running back in this league, and he was actually, a lot of fantasy owners were jumping on the train of him. And so him and DeAndre Swift, if they could both get going, they might have something going there. Something that Detroit hasn't had for a while is their running game. Kenny Galloday, him. Marvin Jones, a lot of people, I've been hearing a lot like, Marvin Jones was good at the beginning, at the end of last year. I don't know. I didn't see it. Like, I went through the stats, and like the end of last year, he had 35 yards, 40 yards, no more than 50 yards a game. He really only had 2 good games last year, and that was against the Vikings, where he got like 4 touchdowns, and the Raiders, where he put up 126 yards and 2 TDs, and that was about it. Danny Amendola, he's always been around. He makes a good catch here and there, but he hasn't been like that main guy like you expect. So and they have Geronimo Allison that they brought in. So they have some targets there. TJ Hawkinson, their first-round pick from last year, he had a good week 1. After that, I don't remember hearing his name, right? Jesse James, I don't think they used correctly. Jesse James was a big target in Pittsburgh for Ben Roethlisberger, and then he's come over here, and Detroit, you don't hear nothing from him in Detroit. That offensive line, I'm not liking it. I'm not buying it. Is it better? Could they be improved? Yeah. I don't see them keeping Matthew Stafford up. Here's the defense. Here's what Matt Patricia is supposed to be making his bread and butter on, and it doesn't look good. Danny Shelton, they brought over from New England. He was a Cleveland first-round pick. They brought him over. Trey Flowers, of course, we already talked about him. Jamie Collins, another former Patriot, played for the Browns for a little bit, back to the Patriots. Now is over here with Matt Patricia. Jared Davis has been with was the linebacker for the Lions. He's actually pretty good. Reggie Ragland, they just brought in. Desmond Trufant. They need cornerback help, right? We already looked at it. They need help in stopping the pass. Desmond Trufant played for the Atlanta Falcons last year, and Atlanta Falcons couldn't stop the pass. So I don't know how much of a difference he's going to make. Maybe they brought him in as a veteran to talk to Jeff Okudah, but I'm not looking for anything special out of Desmond Trufant. I'm not thinking he's going to get anything special from him. That's just me on that. So here's their schedule, and this is what you're looking at their schedule. Look at that. Okay, say the Bears are the same Bears from last year. They didn't have a great offense, but the Packers, Cardinals, and Saints are all good offenses. Then, let's see, the back half of the schedule, you got another Tampa Bay. If you don't have if Matt Patricia can't get that defense to start playing as a team and start playing, at least holding some teams from scoring, then they have no chance this year. They have absolutely no chance against some of these top offenses, and that's why I have them. This is my prediction at 5-11. I am going 5-11. If they stay healthy, they can get those two running backs going. Marvin Jones can play a little bit higher than he has been. Then I see him going 9-7 at the highest. I'm not saying 9-7 at the best, but but 5-11 is my prediction. I could see him going all the way up to 9 wins or somewhere around there. But I could see him also dropping. Say Stafford gets hurt and his back's not 100%, and then drop back down. The running back get hurt. Something happens. That defense, is worse than last year, which could happen. And I don't know how much worse you can get than last year, but it could happen. The salary cap status, they're not in bad salary cap status. I mean, they still have $29 million left this year. They got to sign their rookies, and they'll get that. Next year, $55 million. It's not as much as most teams, but it's good enough. It's good enough to bring some players in that they're going to need to. But next year, they're going to have to make some decisions. Marvin Jones and Damian Amendola are going to be free agents, so those guys are going to be gone. They're going to make a change at the wide receiver position. But the one that they could do next year is they could cut Matthew Stafford and save $14 million. They'll still take $19 million hit, but they would have that $14 million to play with. I don't see them doing that. I see them cutting him the year after, which would be after the 2021 season, and they can cut Matthew Stafford and save $20 million and only take a $6 million hit. But you never know. If Matthew Stafford lays an egg this year, then they will have to cut him. So the Lions, I don't know. You want to say that you believe in the Lions just because of the 3-4-1 start of last year, and you want to say that they turned the corner. But everything that they've done this offseason hasn't got you excited about the season. I mean, when you trade your best player, especially from your defensive side, and your defense was the worst, and you trade one of your best players, I mean, where does that give you hope? Where does that give you hope? So Matt Patricia, I believe, is on the hot seat. If the defense doesn't improve, if the defense does not improve this year, you got to get him out of there. And it sucks for Detroit fans because it's like a continuous thing. They're always going back and forth, and get a new coach. And you thought that Matt Patricia would be the guy, but he's looking more and more like he's not the guy. Maybe they do go 9-7 and they shock the world, but I doubt it. I don't see it. I think they're in a tough division. And it's going to be tough to turn that way on. And you saw the depth chart. The team is not loaded with talent. They have talent, but they're not loaded with it. I mean, one injury here and there, and they're back down. Like I said, Matthew Stafford went down, and they didn't win one game without him. So it's going to be tough. This is my team preview of the 2020 Detroit Lions. I appreciate you guys watching. You guys can check me more out at joemorleysports.com or on Instagram, Facebook. Go ahead and check those out. I appreciate you guys watching. Stay healthy, my friends.